So I saw an odd, I guess, a meme or picture here the other day. You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. So I thought this was kind of odd, showing that sometimes in language, we have two phrases that sound like they are diametrically opposed to one another, yet they're both true depending on how you look at them. The first part of this says you can't change the people around you, meaning you may not change everyone you come into contact with, even though you preach the gospel to them, you talk to them about the Lord, you try to beg and plead them to come to the Lord. You warn them of the wrath to come. You warn them of God's judgment, which will happen, but you can't change their hearts and their minds. And that's true. We can't necessarily change their hearts and minds. We can provide the information of the gospel. We can provide the account of Jesus going to the cross, but sometimes you can't change those people. Now, however, on the other hand, on the second part of this, if you're in with the wrong crowd and you're hanging out with people who are a bad influence, don't be deceived. Bad company does corrupt good character or good morals. If you hang out and stay around people who are immoral, and that's all you're around, and you take a lot of that immorality in, eventually it will corrupt you. That's just the nature of human beings, the way we are. So we want to make sure that we're not doing that. So this phrase, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you, it reads kind of nonsensical, and it doesn't make sense when you first read it. So you have to kind of think about it and give it some thought. There are some proverbs and other things in the Bible that sometimes sound similar to this. So just wanting to point that out to you, that sometimes in language, we can have sentences that sound like they are both, they can't both be true, right? You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. So, but it's the meaning and the context of those sentences that make a big difference. And that's why when we look at the Bible, we want to make sure we're looking at the context. We want to make sure that we understand what's being said, how it's being said, who's speaking, who are they speaking to, what is this that they're trying to convey. There's a lot to it. So with this just shows how context is so important. So when we study the Bible, just because we read something and maybe we don't understand it, maybe we misunderstand it, which can happen. You could misunderstand something like this pretty easily. Don't get discouraged. Don't just give up. It sometimes takes years to understand some simple verses. I've struggled with some different verses over the course of my life where I really had a hard time trying to understand what was being communicated. And that's because of things like this, where it just didn't register or make sense to me. And part of that is, just that lack of context, not knowing enough about maybe the customs or maybe the person speaking, who they're speaking to, what they're trying to convey, that type of thing. So just encouraging you to not give up on understanding the Bible at times. I know there are certain verses in certain places where it is difficult, but you can always look up resources for that. You can always study those verses. You can even go so far as to say, okay, I'm going to put those verses on hold for now. I don't understand them. I'm going to come back to them. But right now, I'm going to continue and study the things that I can understand more easily. And then at the appropriate time, I will come back and study this. Sometimes that's what we have to do. Sometimes we have to say, well, I don't understand this right now. That's not really my focus. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to study these other things, and then I'll come back to that later. There's nothing wrong with that. I've had a number of verses through my life that I've had to come back to over and over before I felt that I kind of understand them or fairly understand them, in a good general sense. So just wanted to mention this. This is just one of those weird examples of language. Now imagine taking that and translating that into other languages. It could be difficult and it may lose its meaning. It may be hard to keep the meaning of the original sentences, right? So that's our problem sometimes when we're looking at the Bible and we see the way it's translated into English. We have to remember the original manuscripts are in Greek and in Hebrew, and we have to watch out for times when maybe some meaning has been lost. The translators are doing a wonderful job, doing the best they can, and they are trying to give us accurate translations, and they do. I think they do give us accurate translations, but sometimes that change of the language can have some impact, and then we don't know enough. Like, I don't know Greek and I don't know Hebrew. I don't maybe know enough of the Jewish customs. So sometimes we may lose some of that meaning. So just be aware of that. Be willing to study that or to seek out someone who's more of an expert in that. And, be willing to learn something new, to learn something more. So just wanted to present that to you as kind of one of those funny examples. Not only is that a good message, we can't always change the people around us, but we can change who we hang out with, who we are spending time with, right? We need to spend time with the Lord and His people. So this is just one of those, I think, very good examples of language and the struggles we can have with understanding what is being written or spoken, especially if you take something out of context. So thanks for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless you and keep you safe. And remember, God loves you.